Well, great. Welcome, everybody. If we could call this meeting to order. If we could please start with a moment of silence for prayer or reflection. Thank you. Councillor Pearson.
Thank you, Worship. Point of privilege. This last weekend was one of the most exciting weekends in Medicine Hat that I've ever heard of in the last 20 years that I've been here. And I'd like to give special congratulations to the Chamber of Commerce for their Home, Garden and Leisure Show. It's quite amazing that the fact that there were so many people there. It took 10 minutes to find a parking spot when I was there. And again, so congratulations to the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this wonderful event. And special kudos to our city staff who manned our city booths and did a wonderful job of doing that. They gave up their weekends. It was a wonderful thing for them to do, and they were great representatives of our city staff and our corporation. So thank you to our city staff who manned those booths, and congratulations to the Chamber.
Thank you.
So first up, we have adoption of the agenda, and I do believe we have a change to make.
Your Worship, I am representing, as Deputy Mayor, I'm representing the city at the Mayor's Caucus in Edmonton tomorrow and the next day, and have to leave tonight in order to get there in time. So I'm only here for the first half hour of this meeting, and I therefore would like to make a motion that we move the Public Services Committee meeting forward on the agenda.
Yeah, I got a seconder.
I'll second.
Right. If we could vote on that. That was unanimous. Thank you. Any other changes to the agenda? All right. Oh.
Adoption of the minutes, minutes from our last meeting, February 23rd, on page 3.
Any errors, omissions? Okay, seeing none, we'll adopt the minutes.
Okay, so we'll go straight to item 4.3 on page 46, Public Services Committee meeting, February 27th. And this item's for adoption, the provision of medical first response by fire services.
I'll move the item for adoption and would like to speak to it as well. I'll second.
Go ahead, Councillor Friesen.
Your Worship, members of council, there's only one item on the report tonight, and it is the provision of medical first response by fire services. Just wanted to say a few things about this in support of this concept. I want to assure everyone that by doing this, there will be no jeopardy of current provision of fire services. The fire services has thought long and hard about this. They've been in conversations with Alberta Health Services and with their own, all their own members, and have done a tremendous amount of research and planning, scenario building, modeling, if you will, to ensure that they have the capacity to provide this service without jeopardizing any provision of fire service. And I think that's an absolute keystone that we have to highlight here. There's no reason to be concerned that there will be a jeopardy, just no fire service will be jeopardized. If you recall back, some of you, the fire service was in the position of medical first response for a number of years, from 1994 to 2005, at which time the province took over responsibility for the provision of EMS. And at that time, and this isn't exact, so don't quote me, but I think there were around 2,000 calls or something like that that they responded to. What we're talking about here is not nearly that amount of calls and a different kind of call. So we're looking at, and this is approximate, but maybe 400 to 500 medical first response calls. Now, the reason for this is Alberta Health Services has just published their target response times of 12 minutes for the most serious types of calls they have. And as you know, our fire service aims at a just slightly over 6-minute response time. So that's about half of the amount of time. The kind of calls we're talking about here are the most serious incident calls. They're triaged by names, and these would be the Delta and Echo level calls, which are the most serious. It would be medical first response that would help guarantee the most positive outcome for those patients. The training will be done by Alberta Health at no cost, and they will also provide all the supplies and those kind of consumables is what they're called in this report. And I want to also stress that this does not mean and will not mean any requirement to hire more staff or a single dollar of increase to their existing budget. What it will do, though, is for that, let's say, up to 500 people, give them a much sooner response time. Now, you have to, when you envision this, you remember that police are out there in their cars already, patrolling their areas. And most often they're first on a scene if they're dispatched there. And so they carry the
AED.
AEDs, sorry, I was going to say ADEs, and I knew that was wrong. They carry the AEDs in their cars, and so they're often the first one there. What this will mean is a real coordinated response, so that it increases the livelihood of a greater health outcome for that patient. And I know that this is a provincial responsibility through health, and they would be the first ones to tell you that. But you know, these are still our people. They're still our people, and if we can give them twice as fast a response time to stabilize them or whatever the case may be in a medical first response model, while not jeopardizing the capacity of fire response in any way, then I think this is a good thing to do. And so I would urge you to support it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Pearson?
Just in support of the motion, everyone knows that our police and fire service are about protection of persons and property, and this seems like such a great fit, and especially in a way because of the time difference between the EMTs and the response by police or firefighters. I think that's amazing that they're going to be there, and that we will not sacrifice anything on any calls to fire emergencies, anything like that. They have worked out a wonderful plan, and commendations to our fire chief for taking on this assignment, and for the firefighters who are wholly in support of this motion. I think it's a tremendous testament to their ability to take on additional training and responsibilities, and I admire their commitment to saving lives and, of course, saving property in our city.
Thank you. Councillor Dumanowski?
Well, Your Worship, I will add my support. I was sat around this table when amalgamation was talked about quite a few years ago now. At that time, I did not support amalgamation for a number of reasons from both the fire and the ambulatory perspective. This is not anything like that. This is not a combined response. This is a co-response. So as Councillor Friesen detailed, it will allow the fire service to respond when available to some of the more serious incidents where time is precious until such time as other EMS can arrive. So I believe that this model is very appropriate. It is welcomed, as is said by Councillor Pearson, welcomed by the membership, which is very important to me, and staff have done a lot of research, and the modeling supports it as well. So this is very, very easy for me to support today, and I'm glad that it's here before us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, if we could vote. And that was unanimous. Thank you.
So moving back up to the top of the agenda, our presentation tonight is from Stan Schwarzenberger, who's our Commissioner of Development and Infrastructure. The presentation is on the Medicine Hat Regional Airport proposed development. Item 4.1, page 17 of your packets.
Welcome. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Council and members of the gallery. It's a short presentation. It's in support of the report that's in the Development and Infrastructure Committee's update. This is with respect to the proposed development of Phase 1 in the north node of the airport lands. We've noted that the proposal coincides and aligns with Council's strategic priorities related to economic development, infrastructure, and amenities, and image and profile. The airport development that's proposed is consistent with the current and anticipated future plans for the airport operations. And the initial focus will be on the enhancing the city's western gateway, the curb appeal, and creating a catalyst for attracting new investment. Those two activities should signal that the city is serious about developing development attraction, and it augments the work that's already been done with the expansion of the airport terminal. As I mentioned, the intention is twofold. One, to improve the curb appeal from Highway 3, which is the western gateway to the city, and to ready an initial group of commercial lots for sale. The recommendations on this slide and the next one are lifted word for word from the staff report that's in your package. I won't go through them in detail, but essentially the recommendation is for council to support the development of the initial phase 1 in the North Node, consisting of 3 lots in the 6 to 8 acre size in total. General cleanup of the North Node, removing contaminated materials, removing some very old concrete foundations, and demolition of the old terminal, and relocation of overhead power line. In addition to that, landscaping and signage along Viscount Avenue and Highway 3. I think you have a better view of the layout of the site in your staff report. For the benefit of the viewers at home and the gallery, the first 3 lots are located here, here, and here around Viscount Avenue. The majority of the reclamation and cleanup will take place in these areas, these 2 lots, and along the highway, and removal of the old terminal building. The 2015-16 budget contained approval of $6 million for the development of the airport lands. It's anticipated that approximately $2.5 million of that $6 million total will go into North Node Phase 1 over the next 12 to 18 months. As I mentioned, there are some legacy historical issues from an environmental perspective dating back to World War II times and all the subsequent uses from then to now, including concrete foundations and lead-contaminated soils. They will be addressed prior to the development of the future commercial sites. In parallel to this development activity, there's also update work being done to the airport strategic plan and the municipal development plan, which is the overarching planning document for the city, guiding the community and council's future vision for the community. That update work has been initiated as well. And that concludes the presentation. If I could, Mr. Chair, it might be easier for me to respond to questions if I go back to my regular station.
No problem, thank you. Any questions or comments? Councillor Pearson?
Thank you, Worship. When I looked at this plan, I'm quite excited by it because there's certainly a lot of old concrete and trash in front of the old terminal building that needs to come up, and hopefully new buildings would be built there. My first comment is one that's critical to me. I can see construction going on in front of or at the entrance to the airport as it exists right now. Is it fair to say that one of the very first projects will be the creation of an egress point for our fire engines at the terminal so that they won't be affected by the construction and by the development that's going on later in that project?
Through the chair, emergency response will be paramount in terms of being able to manage the project. It'll be our commitment that any construction activities out there will not interfere with the egress and access of the fire department.
Thank you very much. If I may make two subsequent comments, I'm excited by this, and I think people need to know that the Heritage Resources Committee has looked at the old terminal and seen no major historic value in that building. So having that building come down and creating a clear view from Number 3 Highway to that brand-new airport design that we have, I think it will be a real cosmetic improvement. And I guess the other important thing to say is that Parcel B is exciting for me. The potential exists for airlines to actually develop a direct connection to a building parcel there where you could have airside downloading of cargo and things to a parcel or to a building or a business right at the airport. I think that's a very interesting kind of prospect.
Thank you. Councillor McIntosh?
Thanks, Your Worship. Commissioners Schwarzenberger, two questions. First of all, have you already been in discussion with anybody for potential opportunities at these sites? Would be the first one. And the second one would be, what would your ideal types of commercial development be for these locations?
There's been interest in the development. We've had some contacts, interestingly enough, on the air side. Not with the ground side, because it's still in its infancy. We chose, with the help of our consultants, these initial lots because they're deemed to be the most marketable and the most appropriate for typical highway commercial type uses that would be compatible with an airport, but also compatible with highway traffic in nature. So anything from restaurants to hotel, motel, those types of uses would be very appropriate in these locations.
Thank you. Councillor Turner?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this finally coming to us for a first look at. And I know personally I've had several people approach me looking to possibly build some hangars there, and I think we maybe have some space to do that now, which is really good. And I guess it'll be probably available in the next year by the look of it, year to year and a half. So it's good to see that happen. And I think, there is an opportunity here for us to expand our pilot training programs that are going on. And I'm sure if we could do that, we probably could get some more classrooms and that type of thing built there as well. So I think it's going to be good for the economic future of the city.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Friesen?
Well, I'd like to echo that. I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. We have been talking about this for years and years and years, about the potential of development around those airport lands and what it could mean for the city and economic development and potential and opportunities and all those kinds of things. So, we finally see it here, and I agree with Councillor Turner. I'm quite excited about it as well. I think people will see this $6 million amount and think, what in the world are they doing, spending this kind of money in a very tough budget year? What I can say, though, is that the budget, this is in the budget, it has been approved in the budget, and over time it is recovered. You have to put the money in up front to have the land ready for the development, but over time that is recovered. And the benefits of having it developed over time far exceed the initial costs of putting it in the first place. So I think it is absolutely wonderful. And each development that comes here will create more ancillary or value-added opportunities along with it. So I'm quite excited about it as well. We really don't have much in that area, and that is a major road. And so this will diversify, in my view, also diversify some development in a very healthy way around the city. So, you know, I support it. I know this is the culmination of a lot of work, and thank you for that, and I support it.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Can I get a motion for reception?
Move reception?
Second.
Thank you. If we could vote. That was unanimous. Thank you.
So moving along to our first report, item 4.1 on page 17, Development and Infrastructure Committee meeting of February 22nd. This report's for adoption.
So moved.
Second?
Any comments? Just dealt with the airport. Okay, seeing none, if we could vote. That was unanimous. Thank you.
Next report's item 4.2 on page 35, the Administrative Committee meeting of February the 23rd, and this report's for adoption and information.
I'll move. Okay, we'll share it.
Your worship, I wonder if we might be able to separate item number 2 for a separate vote on that?
Sure. So let's just deal with item number 1 first, because it's first in the order of the agenda. So item number 1, the surface reclamation services for 2017. Any questions or comments? This is for adoption. All right, seeing none, if we could vote. And that was unanimous, thank you. Okay, item number 2, which is the RFP recommendation for the curbside recycling. Any questions or comments? So this is for information. I mean, this has been approved by council, the previous about a month ago, 4-3 vote, I think it was. But any comments, Councillor Turner?
Yes, I did want to comment on this. I guess it's, for me, I voted no originally, so I certainly want to vote no again, but it is nice to see that it did come in under the $6 fee at, I believe it was $4.66, but my original objection was that at this particular time, I didn't want to see any additional fees added to our citizens' utility bills, so that's why I voted no initially.
Thank you. Councillor Pearson?
I concur with the comments that Councillor Turner has made, but I think we're moving ahead with this really quickly, and I would love to have seen more details. I know it's down in the weeds, but we have recycling companies in our city that need to figure into the big plan. And I would hate to see any of those businesses go out of business because of our move to the curbside recycling. So my objection will be strictly on the fact that we're moving too quickly.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we could vote. And that was 6 in favor, 2 against. So it passes.
Okay, so we've dealt with public services, so we'll move on to reports for reception. Our first one is item 5.1, page 50, the draft minutes of the Medicine Hat Police Commission of February 16th, and the police chief's report.
Would you like to move? Yep, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Councillor Pearson?
Thank you, Worship. Well, I have to say I am absolutely delighted by the training that our officers are getting and by the leadership of our police service. It's quite amazing to see. And there are some specific things here that are really of great interest to me. First of all, commendation for 4 officers attending Understanding Mental Illness in Children. We've had a really remarkable instance where a 10-year-old was responsible for threatening someone's life, and having those officers getting training in that area is really commendable for our chief and for his service. There's leadership development that's being offered in Medicine Hat because our officer is taking the program at the Sask Police College through the Edmonton company at Lethbridge. And you know something, a long time ago, in previous council, we applied to have the police academy here for the province. And we were unsuccessful. Fort McLeod was given the opportunity. And what I see now happening is really exciting for me. It's our police chief coming in through the back door, offering programs and training and opportunities that I think are truly amazing, that he's working it so that our center will be a major center for training local police forces, municipal police forces in the province. And I love the way they're doing it. They're training our own staff to become instructors and people who are going to work with. Just a couple of quick notes on this report. There were so many good things. 15 cardiac responses with defibrillation in 2016. We're talking about our fire department doing that kind of response, but oftentimes police service are there first. 15 different responses, 15 lives saved. That's pretty important. And the training that our officers are getting in dealing with fentanyl and all of those treatments with the naloxone training, that's absolutely critical and it's life-saving. The city internal safety audit really pleased me because at one point early on in my tenure in office, I asked, does the police service have the same kind of safety standard and inspections that all of our departments have? And I think at that time the response was, well, no, they're their own department. And now I see a really exciting thing happening. I see our head of the safety division doing an inspection, and that city internal safety audit is now something that goes right across the whole of our city administration, all of our departments, and I'm really delighted to see that. That's really critical. The other thing that's really interesting is the police crisis team, the PACT, has formed with a mental health worker assigned to the team. What a great move that is. That's tremendous. Well, it wouldn't be a comment on the police department if I didn't say one other thing that's a concern. Page 33 of the Community Intelligence Team report, I object to the identification of a victim as a black individual. What has race to do with this offense? I believe that the police force must be colorblind, and I object to the use of black individual in that report.
Noted. Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess through you, perhaps to one of our representatives to the Police Commission, really doesn't arise out of this report, but arises out of the news today, that the police service in Calgary have received there was some
14, I think.
disclosure of information. In particular, it has to do with investigations, internal investigations of police officers. And I'm just wondering if the same rather highly criticized techniques and approaches to investigation are being used by our own police service. I know, for instance, the 2 points that were raised. One, police officers under investigation are entitled to give statements in Calgary that can't be used against them by some special agreement that they make. So that would be certainly very different from anybody else who's being investigated by the police. And that procedure was criticized by ACERT, by the ACERT director, quite pointedly criticized. The second item that was raised in her letter was the practice in Calgary of disclosing. So when you're charged with a criminal offense, once you're charged and go to court, you're entitled to disclosure, the police report, the witness statements, all of the information that the police believe builds a case against you in support of their charge. Apparently the practice in the Calgary Police Service is if you're a police officer under investigation, you get disclosure before you're charged and before you give your statement, so that you can read all the allegations against you and then decide whether or not you want to give a statement, and if you do give a statement, whether or not it could actually be used against you. But certainly it could be tailored to suit the other evidence that's available. So these are two highly contentious points that were raised in criticism of practices by the Calgary Police Service, and I'd like to know whether those practices are being followed by the Medicine Hat Police Service when they do investigations.
I don't have an answer for you, Councillor Dumanowski. I don't know if you...
I apologize, with my cough, I had to leave, but I caught part of your comments. We have not had any discussions around this, so I'm not aware, but I would have to take it back to the chief and...
Thank you. If you could, I think it would be information that would be certainly appreciated by the public in Medicine Hat, and certainly I would appreciate it as a member of city council.
And this is when they're charged criminally, not just,
No, just investigations.
just, okay,
Not necessarily, often they lead to charges criminally,
yeah, okay,
but usually there's an internal investigation.
right. Okay, we'll endeavor to get you an answer. Councillor McIntosh?
Thanks, Your Worship. I had the benefit this weekend to spend several hours down at the trade show, working at the Tourism Medicine Hat booth, asking people some of their really positive thoughts about our community. And one message that came through several times was how incredibly safe our city is. And well, I wholeheartedly agree with that. Over the last number of years, I think myself and a number of people in the community have seen some level of change, specifically related to increased drug use and the subsequent property crimes and theft that is taking place to help support that lifestyle. And my question would be, would it be possible for us as a council and I guess for the city to have somebody from the police force come in and have a discussion with us or a presentation in terms of what is taking place over the last number of years and the types of things that they are doing to help mitigate those changes? And I did have a discussion with Councillor Friesen before she left, but Councillor Dumanowski, if you comment on that.
Well, through the chair to Councillor McIntosh, I think if we make the invitation, anything's possible. And I don't want to suggest that it should be very easy. On the one hand, our meetings are public events, so there is the opportunity for anyone to come there. But if we as a council want to be enlightened as a whole so that we become more knowledgeable and better at being spokespeople in support of these kinds of initiatives, I don't see why we couldn't make that request. So I will add that to the agenda and see if we can have that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Simmons?
Thank you. I just wanted to bring forward some statistics that I think it's important for the public to hear. I think we look at, I always bring up SFIT, which is the Safe Families in Transition program, as well as the mental health program, which I think are really important and a real innovation by our police service, and very proud to be a part of that. But I just wanted to note, so in 2016, domestic-related files were up 6% in our community, but yet 30% across the province. So I can't help but think that our SFIT program is really making some headway here in regards to domestic violence calls. So I just wanted to point that out to the community, that our police service is really doing a good job here. As well, when you look at mental health statistics here, you can see that although attempted suicides are up, completions are down. And so that means that our police service is getting out and intervening earlier and having an opportunity to hopefully stop some of these suicides from happening. And so I just wanted to point that out. I think it's really important to understand that some of these prevention programs are actually working very well in our community. So I just wanted to thank the police force as well as the police chief and police commission for their innovative thinking in this regard. So.
Thank you. Councillor Turner?
Thank you, Your Worship. Photo radar has always been a topic of discussion amongst many citizens, and I was just looking at the stats comparing 2016 to 2015, and even though we monitored about 45,000 more vehicles, we actually issued almost 7,000 fewer tickets. So I guess either folks are finally getting the message and photo radar actually is working and slowing people down, or maybe just the economy is a little slower and people are slowing down because they can't afford to pay the tickets. But either way, we seem to be making some improvements, and that certainly bodes well for safety, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, if we could vote. And that was unanimous. Thank you.
Our final report for reception is item 5.2, page 108, Heritage Resources Committee meeting minutes of February 14th.
I move this report for information and reception.
I'll second.
Any comments? All right, if we could vote. That was unanimous. Thank you.
Bylaws for second and third readings. Our bylaw is item 6.1, page 111. Bylaw 4428, a bylaw of the City of Medicine Hat to incur indebtedness in the amount of $1,191,000 for the purpose of IT security upgrades.
Your worship, I'd ask that bylaw 4428 be read a second time.
I'll second that.
Any questions or comments? Councillor Pearson?
Thank you, Worship. I think it's really critical that this happens. In the last week, I've received through the city's email a spam communication that turned out to be a scam, in fact. And so I think it's really important that we do something to upgrade, put up some firewalls that prevent this kind of nonsense from happening in our city's communication system. And a question through the chair to our CAO, is there evidence that our city's server has been hacked? And is there a current danger in this?
Through the chair, excuse me, to Councillor Pearson, we are subject to pretty relentless spam emails, and they are getting more sophisticated and more serious as well, which really underlines why this is sort of our number one priority on the IT front in this budget period. So we have had, it's not so much the hacking into servers, it's accessing our systems via the back doors, basically. And we've had several incidents where, they've kind of gotten information and gotten in through the back door. Now, we stop about 1,400 spam emails per day. So those that come through, we certainly do have firewalls and we have up-to-date security, but we see these attacks getting more and more sophisticated. There's even been emails looking like they're coming from me to our finance department, directing transfer of funds and so on. So I mean, they know about our organizational structure, they know about our emails, and they're using that information. So it's not just the random spam that everyone sort of gets. It's quite sophisticated attempts at getting inside our systems. So it's certainly a concern and something we need to prioritize to make sure we stay on top of.
I think this is a pretty critical kind of upgrade. We need to make sure that we're guarding ourselves and guarding our administration.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Turner?
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just going to echo Councillor Pearson's comments. We have a lot of information to protect from, staff, personal records to our customer accounts, you name it. There's just, we just can't afford to have a breach. And I know $1 million sounds like a lot of money, but these people out there, they're just getting much more sophisticated, and it seems like the more sophisticated we get, they just get a little better, and we just have to keep up with it. And it's the reality of the world we live in today, and I don't think that we just have to spend that money for sure.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, if we could vote on second reading. That was unanimous. Thank you.
I'd ask that bylaw 4428 be read a third time and passed.
Any questions or comments? All right, if we could vote. That was unanimous. Thank you.
Bylaws now for first reading. Item 7.1, page 116, you'll find bylaw 4431, a bylaw of the City of Medicine Hat to incur indebtedness in the amount of $500,000 for the purpose of communication tower remediation.
Your worship, I seek leave of council to introduce bylaw 4431 and ask that it be read a first time.
Second that.
If we could vote. That was unanimous. Thank you.
Our next bylaw is item 7.2 on page 120, bylaw 4432, a bylaw of the City of Medicine Hat to incur indebtedness in the amount of $500,000 for the purpose of annual pound and rescue centre building rehabilitation.
I'd ask, excuse me, that bylaw 4432 be read a first time.
Second that.
If we could vote. That was unanimous. Thank you. No notice of motion. So seeing no more business before this council, we are adjourned.